وَاسْتَفْتَحُوا, and they requested victory. From who? From Allah. Istaftahu from the root letters Fataha, Fath. And the word Fath has many meanings. Of them is victory. Nasrun min Allah wa fathun qareeb. Fath is victory. Similarly, Fath also means decision, decree. As in the dua, رَبَّنَا افْتَحْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَ قَوْمِنَا. Iftah meaning decide, pass your judgment, pass your decree. And Fath is also to open. So it also gives a meaning of relief. So وَاسْتَفْتَحُوا, they prayed for victory. They requested victory. Who? The messengers. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this promise with them, that وَلَنُسْكِنَنَّكُمُ الْأَرْضَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ, the messengers, when the situation became extremely hostile, very intense, the people refused to believe, then the messengers prayed for victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result, what happened? وَخَابَ كُلُّ جَبَّارٍ عَنِيدٍ, and disappointed was every obstinate tyrant. Every obstinate tyrant, every person who opposed the messenger, he was disappointed. How? That he was destroyed. He was punished. All of his efforts were spent in opposing the messenger. But at the end, all of those turned against him. Because he was a failure and the messenger was successful. وَاسْتَفْتَحُوا has also been understood in another way. That the people, the nations, they sought, they requested, they wanted a decision from who? Allah. In the sense that a decision should be made between us and between this messenger. They wanted a decision because they thought they were right, they were correct. So وَاسْتَفْتَحُوا وَخَابَ, and he was disappointed. Khaba is from the root letters Kha, Ya, Ba, from the word khayba. And khayba is to be defeated. It is to fail to achieve one's purpose. So Khaba, he was frustrated, he was disappointed, he became unsuccessful. Who? Kullu jabbar, every tyrant that is anid, that is obstinate, that is stubborn. Jabbar is from the root letters Jim Bara, and Jabr is to force, to compel. And when the word Jabbar is used for a human being, it has a negative connotation. Someone who is very oppressive, someone who is a tyrant. But when the word Jabbar is used for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is praiseworthy. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Jabbar in the sense that He is of overwhelming power. He cannot be defeated. And Jabr also means to fix something, to do islah of something. So when Jabbar is used for Allah, what does it mean? The one who does islah. The one who improves. The one who rectifies. But for people, generally the word Jabbar is not that praiseworthy. So every tyrant, every oppressor, every person who was arrogant to obey Allah, to submit to Him, to believe in the messenger, to follow the messenger, and instead he oppressed the messenger, he oppressed the people, he oppressed the believers. And at the same time he was also anid. Anid is from the root letters Ain Nun Dal. And unud is to resist stubbornly. Unud means to resist something stubbornly. So it gives a sense of arrogance, it gives a sense of opposing the truth, turning away from the right way, and being very stubborn. So anid, very stubborn, very obstinate, resisting. So every opponent of truth, he was defeated at the end. So we see that the nations, they thought that they were on the right way. They were true. They were right. And they sought Allah's victory against who? Against themselves. They sought Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decision against themselves in reality. But they were very sure, very confident about the truthfulness. And when they sought Allah's decision, it was against them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to the call of the messengers and He gave them victory. He assisted them. And we see that the qualities of the people that have been mentioned over here are in particular Jabr and of Unud. Because with their oppression and their resistance, what did they think? That they could defeat the messenger. They could cause failure to him. But in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused failure to them, such that they were destroyed in the dunya. They were completely finished. Their arrogance was broken. Their stubbornness was broken. It was put to an end. And in the hereafter awaits them adabun shadid, a very severe, a very intense punishment. Min waraihi jahannam. Before him is hell. Yes, he has gone from this dunya. Jabbarin Anid has gone from this dunya. But in the hereafter, what awaits him? Hellfire. The word wara is from the root letters waw, ra, hamza, and it's used in different ways. Sometimes it gives the meaning of back, behind, and sometimes it also gives the meaning of in front of, because it's one of those words that gives completely opposite meanings, like the word zan. Depending on the context, it will give completely opposite meanings. Sometimes zan means assumption, and sometimes it means certainty, depending on the context. So similarly, wara over here gives the meaning of before him, in front of him, ahead of him, is Jahannam, hellfire that he will enter. And when he will enter hellfire, وَيُسْقَى, and he will be made to drink مِن مَاءٍ صَدِيدٍ, water, a drink that is sadid, that is festering, that is vile. The word sadid is from the root letters sad, dal, dal. And sadid is used for anything that is repulsive. Anything that you look at, you're disgusted, you turn it away from yourself, and you turn away from it. You don't want to look at it, you don't want to smell it, you don't want to touch it, you don't want to have anything to do with it. Very repulsive. Basically it's from the word sad. And what does sad mean? To prevent, to stop. So sadid is something that is so repulsive that you are averted by it. You don't even want to look at it. You don't even want to smell it. And sadid is understood as, according to Imam Raghib, he says that sadid is the pus that appears between the skin and the flesh that is under the skin. When does that happen? When the skin gets wounded, when it's injured. Generally, if the skin gets injured, if there's a cut, then there's a scab that develops over it. But under that scab is what? Sometimes it's pus, if the wound gets infected. And in the initial stages, there's at least some kind of liquid over there. This is what sadid is. Sadid is secretion of the body. It's pus, it's blood. In particular, which comes out of the body when a wound is not healing. When a wound goes bad. When it continues to bleed. And when it continues to cause pus to flow out of it. So وَيُسْقَى مِن مَاءٍ صَدِيدٍ, he will be given to drink water that is sadid, that is festering, that is vile. According to some, sadid is a mixture of vomit and blood. It's a mixture of vomit and blood. Secretion of the body. Secretion of the body. And what is this drink that will be given to the people of Hellfire? The people of Hellfire, as we have learned earlier, that their bodies will never burn and finish off. Every time that the skin is burnt out, بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا, their skins will be replaced. And the kind of punishment that is in Hellfire, extreme heat and fire and boiling hot water, that will only cause the wounds to bleed even more. And the size of the people of Hellfire will also be enormous. So from their bodies will constantly come out this pus and this liquid which is going to be given to them to drink. مِن مَاءٍ صَدِيدٍ. This is what they will be given to drink. And who is this a punishment for? For every obstinate tyrant. Every person who is oppressive, who resists the truth, who opposes the truth, who opposes the people of the truth. For him, this is the punishment that awaits him. A liquid that is made of pus and blood of the people of Hellfire. It is said that this liquid that will come out of the bodies, that will secrete from the bodies, it will be so much that literally valleys would flow with this substance, with this vile liquid. And then this will be given to drink. We learn in the Quran, هَذَا فَلْيَذُوقُوهُ حَمِيمٌ وَغَسَّاقٌ وَآخَرُ مِنْ شَكْلِهِ أَزْوَاجٌ. This is so, then let them taste it. Hamim and ghassaq. Boiling hot water and ghassaq. Ghassaq is sadid as well. And other torments of similar kind altogether. Elsewhere we learn that وَسُقُوا مَاءً حَمِيمًا فَقَطَّعَ أَمْعَاءَهُمْ. And they will be given to drink boiling hot water so that it will cut up their bowels, their intestines. In Surah Al-Kahf we learn وَإِن يَسْتَغِيثُوا يُغَاثُوا بِمَاءٍ كَالْمُهْلِ يَشْوِي الْوُجُوهِ. They will be given such water that just by the water coming close to their mouths, it's going to burn their faces. This is the punishment of who? The person who opposes the messenger. The person who denies the messenger, who rejects the messenger, who does not believe in the messenger, does not follow the messenger. He exceeds his limits in opposing the messenger. And this water, when it's offered to him, will he be able to drink it? يَتَجَرَّعُهُ. He will gulp it. He will try to sip it. One sip after the other. وَلَا يَكَادُ يُسِيغُهُ. But he will not be able to swallow it. يَتَجَرَّعُهُ. From the root letters, Jim, Ra, Ain. Jur'ah is to take a sip, little by little. To not be able to swallow something at once, but rather to take it sip by sip. Sometimes if you have to drink a tea which is extremely hot, then you drink it like this. One sip after the other. One little sip, tiny sip, followed by another one. With a big gap in the middle perhaps. Similarly, if there is a drink which does not taste that good, it's horrible in its taste, and you have to drink it, perhaps as a cure, as a medication, then even that is drunk in the same manner. Sip by sip. So يَتَجَرَّعُهُ. He will try to sip it. He will take it sip by sip, gulping it repeatedly. In other words, he will not be able to drink it all at once. Why? Because of the foul taste, because of the foul smell. Even though he will be extremely thirsty, he will not be able to drink it. Sometimes, people do not eat someone's leftover food. Other times, people do not drink from a cup from which other people have sipped from. People don't share glasses. People don't share straws. Sometimes people are very particular. And this is not an ordinary drink. What kind of a drink is this? What kind of a drink is this? Pus and blood. He will not be able to drink it. وَلَا يَكَادُ يُسِيغُهُ. And even if he takes it sip by sip, he will barely be able to swallow it. Yusighu from the root letter sin wa ghain. And sawgh is to be able to swallow something easily. When something washes down, when something goes down one's throat with ease. So لَا يَكَادُ يُسِيغُهُ. He will not be able to drink it. He will not be able to swallow it. He will not be able to ingest it. Hardly he will be able to. Why? Because of its foul smell. Because of its disgusting taste. Because of its awful color. Because of its unbearable heat. And with this drink, because he is so thirsty, so desperate, he will drink it anyway. Because imagine if someone offers you a drink like this, will you drink it? You will not. But the state of this person is so desperate, he is so thirsty, that even this drink, he will take it sip after sip. Because he's so desperate to drink anything. And with this drink, what's going to happen? وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. And death will come to him from everywhere. He will be surrounded by death. But وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ. He is not going to die. وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. From every place, death will be approaching him, overcoming him. Death will be experienced by every part of his body. Every hair, every inch is going to experience death. His organs, his limbs, the entire body will suffer pain because of this drink. And if anyone would die, then this person would die. But at this point, no one can die. وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. As if he will constantly be experiencing the pangs of death. He will constantly be in sakarat. When a person is dying, if you've ever seen a person who is experiencing death, what is happening? His entire body is hurting. Even the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed for protection from the sakaratul maut. And when he was about to die, we learned that even he was experiencing a lot of pain. Which is why he would say, Inna lil mawti sakarat. Death has sakarat. So just imagine, وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. Death is approaching him from everywhere. Every part of his body is experiencing death. But the thing is that وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ. He's not going to die. Nothing can cause him to die now. وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِ. And before him is عَذَابٌ غَلِيظٌ. A punishment that is massive. You think this is a severe punishment? After this punishment is a punishment that is much more severe, much more great. We see that the extreme heat, the beating of the angels, the horrible food and drink, all types of punishment will come to him carrying death if he were to die. But he will not die. In this dunya, if a person has an infection, if a person is terribly ill, if a person is suffering from a lot of pain, if his body is burning, eventually he dies. Eventually, his body comes to an end. His soul leaves. But the person in hellfire, there will be no scene of death. Death will be around him, surrounding him from everywhere, but he will not die. And the most painful experience is death. Just imagine, constantly in this painful punishment. But this is not the end of it. وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِ عَذَابٌ غَلِيظٌ. Beyond this is a much more severe punishment, a massive punishment. And what is that massive punishment? The punishment of food. This is drink. And then he will be offered food. In Surah Al-Dukhan, ayah 43 to 46, we learn, إِنَّ شَجَرَةَ الزَّقُومِ طَعَامُ الْأَثِيمِ كَالْمُهْلِ يَغْلِي فِي الْبُطُونِ كَغَلْيِ الْحَمِيمِ. Indeed, the tree of Zaqum, it is food for the sinful. Food for the sinful. Like murky oil, it boils within the bellies, like the boiling of hot water. Why is this severe punishment going to be given to such people? Because they tortured the believers in the dunya. As we learned earlier, Fir'aun and his people, what did they do? يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. They inflicted upon you سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. So for them awaits a much more evil punishment. Such an evil punishment that they will not die. They will continue to experience it. In Surah Al-A'la, ayah number 13, we learn, ثُمَّ لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا. Then he will not die, and he will not even live. He will not be able to die, he will not be able to live. A person, if he dies once, that enough is a very severe experience. But imagine dying over and over again. Experiencing death, thinking that this is over, but it's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. And what is this punishment for? Opposing the truth, opposing the messenger, oppressing people. And this is the punishment that Allah is warning us about. This is the punishment that awaits people if they deny their Lord, if they refuse to submit before Him. So what is our responsibility? What is our responsibility now that we have come to know of this? That we have to convey this message to the people. Because the matter of the hereafter is not that simple. It's not that light. It's not that insignificant. It's very, very serious. Generally, when we think about the punishment in the hereafter, we think eventually a person will get used to it. Or eventually a person will finish. But what do we learn? There is no end to that punishment. So it is our responsibility that once we have learned this, we must try to take the people out of the darkness into the light. Out of the darkness into the light. And if we don't, then Allah is ghani. He does not need us. He does not need other people to worship Him. And if we disobey, if we don't share this, we're only harming ourselves. إِن تَكْفُرُوا أَنْتُمْ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. He does not need you. Let's listen to the recitation of these ayat. So what did you learn?
Just thinking that we've been learning so many stories about all the previous prophets and then the punishments that they went through, and then like for all of us, we've seen live examples like just what just happened in Japan, and then the things that are happening in Pakistan. Like all these examples, we see like most of the time we need visual pictures to understand something, because obviously imagination, sometimes we don't want to put it into effort when we read the Quran. But for us, a lot of the students right now, we see that even in the morning we've seen those pictures and we've seen those videos, yet we think that okay, just because it happened to them, we're safe here. Why do we always think that we're so safe? And just yesterday, a sister was sharing a story with me. There's a brother who passed away yesterday, and he just got out of jail and everything. And yesterday, on Friday, he made the intention of coming to Islam. He's like, you know what, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to become a better person and make dua for me. And then he went and prayed Asr. He went and prayed Jummah, then he went and prayed Asr in the masjid, and then at night, he passed away. And just to show you that, like, people are only going to remember him for the effort that he put, that he, at the last moment, he came to the deen. Whereas if he, like, subhanAllah, if he died as a person who was known for gangsterism or whatever that is, nobody would remember him. They would just think of him as a rebel, and they would just think of him as a bad person. But for all of us, it just shows you that every single day we're reminded.
And if you look at it, this description that has been given over here, it's so descriptive. It's so detailed. Just thinking about it, just imagining it, listening to it, reading it, makes us shiver. And we think it's for some other people. Go ahead.
Yeah, just from these descriptive details, it just goes to show how important it is for us to convey the message of the Quran, and that just goes to show how seriously we need to take this class, and that we need to understand it ourselves first in order to do that.
Exactly. Because it's a matter of eternity. It's not just a matter of a few days, a few months, a few years. This is eternity. And this is people suffering forever if we keep the message to ourselves. The messengers, they underwent so much difficulty. وَلَنَصْبِرَنَّ. We will definitely be patient. We will continue. But our reality is that we don't even do sabr over learning. Then how can we do sabr over conveying?
How the previous ayat, the messengers were saying that we're going to definitely do sabr on what you're doing to us. And it shows that this is why they did sabr, because they knew the result of the people if they don't believe and if they don't go on the right path and if they're not brought out of the darkness into the light. So it just shows that the da'i needs to have such well-wishing for the people that he's telling, because we know of the punishment now. So if we tell someone and if they react badly to us, we shouldn't be offended. We should be even more caring.
Exactly. Again, remember that example of the doctor and the patient. The doctor knows how important the cure is for the patient. No matter how much the patient resists, no matter how much he argues, no matter how much he refuses, the doctor knows. And he wants good for him. Similarly, once we have been told about this punishment, that how can we remain silent? How can we remain just sitting back and doing nothing? Nothing at all? People we love, people we talk to, people we share our feelings with, and we don't worry for their akhirah? This is something so serious. يَتَجَرَّعُهُ وَلَا يَكَادُ يُسِيغُهُ وَيَأْتِيهِ الْمَوْتُ مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ وَمَا هُوَ بِمَيِّتٍ. And we have the Quran, but we don't tell other people about it. We claim to love those people. Is this really love? That we're not warning them, we're not telling them? We're not even trying?
Just looking at those three qualities of shukr, tawakkul, and sabr. We need this is basically the whole recipe right there for doing dawah, for doing anything that you're doing in life.
Exactly. That shukr is your motivation. And sabr and tawakkul, they are your tools. Or they are the two main things that you rely upon. Where do you get your motivation from? From shukr. That if I have this, I have to convey this to others. Sabr keeps you going, and tawakkul gives you the confidence. These three things are very, very important. And a person who is grateful for the Quran, he will not keep it to himself. He will be motivated to convey it. And if you look at it, the reason why all of this is mentioned is to tell us that we also need to convey the message to other people. We also need to put in effort just like the previous messengers did. that regardless of how the people treated them, regardless of how they threatened them, they continued, they didn't give up. We don't even try. We just assume things in our mind. We become afraid, and we don't say anything. Okay, we'll listen to the recitation. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.